Welcome to Fix It Home Improvement, covering projects that every homeowner should know and great products for home and garden.
Hi, I'm JC, and this is where we share weekly home improvement tips. I'm here with my co-host, Cindy.
Hello, JC.
Hi, Cindy. Today we're going to be talking about garage door openers. We'd like to thank Liz from Yuma, Arizona. She gave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. Did you know the first garages were converted carriage houses?
No, I did not.
So in the 20s, these shed-like barns that sat next to the house, this is where they held their horse-drawn carriages.
Uh-huh.
And they converted those into the first garages for cars.
It makes sense.
In 1921, the overhead folding door was developed, so you would lift it up, and that the whole door itself was parallel to the ceiling rather than in sections, like most are now.
Bet that was hard to lift.
Yeah, can you imagine those big old heavy doors? And then in 1926, C.G. Johnson invented the automatic garage door opener. And the first remotes were actually developed after World War II based on a system that they used to detonate bombs remotely. Interesting, huh?
Mm-hmm.
In 1982, they passed a law that you had to have an emergency release on your garage door if you have an opener. In 1993, Consumer Product Safety Commission passed a law that all garage doors had to have these photoelectric sensors 6 inches off the ground and a pressure sensor because of deaths from children getting stuck underneath a garage door opener. And you know what's an interesting statistic? 71% of people use their garage door now as the main entrance into their house.
Interesting.
Yeah, funny, huh?
Let's start with types of garage door openers.
So chain drive is probably the most common. It's the lowest cost, very dependable. It tends to be louder than the other styles, really good for heavy doors. And this in the U.S. is the most common that you'll see is a chain drive. Then you have belt drive. So this is very quiet, very low vibration. This uses a rubber belt that has, wire inside of it to push and pull the door on a trolley that's attached to a metal bar to the garage door. And then we have Screwdrive, very dependable. This can be noisy, though, and slow. A lot of people, some of the reviews I saw for the Screwdrive garage door openers complained about how slow they are. So I didn't realize people are that impatient. When like something else is opening the door for you, and you're complaining about it.
What's really slow is getting out of the car and opening it yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. But it can lift very heavy doors. The one thing that I saw with Screwdrive, which I actually had in my last house, and I thought it always did a nice job, but they say it's not recommended for detached garage because they're not designed for extreme temperature changes. So Screwdrive. And then you have direct drive. This is very interesting. So the motor is moving along a stationary chain. They're quiet. They're rated very high for reliability. But rather than that trolley that's connected, you have your motor usually hanging underneath your outlet. Then you have a long rail. And then that trolley is moving up. With this direct drive, the motor is moving, like the trolley would. So that's pretty wild. Most of these are made in Germany. And then you have Jackshaft. And this is interesting because now you have no center rail. So there's nothing in the center of the ceiling in your garage.
Interesting.
This is mounted on the wall right next to the garage door. And the motor's connected to pulleys and cables that raise the door. And this is quiet, reliable, and just a very interesting design.
Well, because my grandpa had a detached garage, and there wasn't enough clearance between...
Right. So a Jackshaft would have been perfect for that.
Who knew?
Yeah.
What are some things you need to think about before you purchase a new garage door opener?
So before you purchase one, you need to know whether you have a standard 7-foot door or an 8-foot door. If you have an 8-foot door, you're going to need an extension kit.
Oh, really?
And then, the size and weight of your door. So the motor size is, the standard usually recommended is a 0.5 horsepower. And this one's really good for most 1- and 2-car garages with just your typical light door. If you have a heavy wood door, you're looking for 3/4 horse to 1 horse. And then I would always think about, is there a bedroom above the garage? So, I'd be looking for a quiet garage door opener if I had a bedroom above there. So you're looking for a belt drive, direct drive, or Jackshaft if you want to.
It's not the chain drive.
No.
What are some features available on new garage door openers?
If you don't want to wait for it to open that long, you can look for a box that says 14 inch per second or faster.
No way. What's the average?
averages about 7 inches per second. And
So is it like amazing? Have you seen one of these? Is
no,
it just like,
yeah,
boom,
I can't.
it's up.
I did, like I said, I didn't know it was a problem. I thought it was fantastic. I like sit and applaud. I'm always happy
Yeah.
when it opens by
I
itself.
didn't have to get out of the car.
And then I would always think about the light kit too. So a lot of the new ones are coming with the LEDs. So these are going to stand up to the vibration, very low energy, and you can get them with very high lumen output. If you're replacing light bulbs and you have a standard socket in your garage door opener, make sure that you're grabbing rough service bulbs or garage door bulbs. They're going to be marked garage door.
Right.
And these have really thick filaments. They're going to stand up to that vibration.
Well, I just went through this with my dad.
Yeah.
He was complaining because he's like, I just changed the garage door light and it's burnt out again. I said, well, what kind did you use, Dad? He's like, I don't know, whatever in the pantry. I'm like, well, there you go.
Yeah. Funny, huh? A little something like that makes a big difference. And
Well,
then,
why does he have to yell at me?
and then you need to, because you should have bought this for him.
Well, I did. I mean, it was on the garage. It's in the garage on the wall.
But you also need to be aware of the wattage restrictions on your case, because it may say like 60 watt maximum bulb. If you use something with too high of a watt, you can actually melt the plastic covers.
You're kidding.
And then you need to be careful about halogen lights too, because they generate much more heat. So you have to be concerned about that, because there's been quite a few fires with halogen lights in recessed fixtures, and it's caused by it creates so much heat that it actually ignites the paper on insulation or combustible material in recessed lighting.
That's scary.
So you really need to be conscious of the type of bulb that you're using. Another thing that I would think about before I purchase a new garage door opener is the number of remote controls that come with it. A lot of the new ones only come with one remote.
Really?
Yeah, which is really weird. So look at that, because a lot of them have now the keyless entry, which is another nice feature. You can get some of the kits now, they have keyless entries. So fantastic for kids, for guests. And you know what, a couple of the new high-tech ones? They have a fingerprint scanner on the entry board. Is that cool?
That's super cool.
They also have battery backups now on some models, which is pretty wild. So if the electricity goes out in a storm, the battery is going to operate your garage door 20 to 50 times in a 24-hour period, depending on the model.
Who's going to open their door that many times?
You got a big family. You got a party, and there's a storm. You need to open it 50 times. And these just use a small sealed battery. And what's nice about these systems is when that battery is getting low or getting at the end of its life, it has an LED light that starts to flash, and then there's this warning tone. So like your smoke detectors, you got to change the battery on your garage door now. And then one thing that they recommended to test the battery once a season is to unplug your garage door opener and then push the button to see whether it's opening and closing, just to test the system.
That's like super cool, isn't it?
Yeah, very convenient. And especially 71% of us use that as our front door,
Right,
so it's nice. And these systems are using a DC motor. So we've talked about these DC motors now becoming very popular. So direct current, it's changing the AC, that's your household current, changing it to DC. And these DC motors are long life, they're strong, they're energy efficient, and they just do a very nice job, especially with heavy doors. You can also get an opener that says vacation settings, and this prevents the opener from responding to any transmitters. So it basically just shuts it down from accepting any signals.
So like thieves trying to come into your house?
Yeah, lots of thieves. And then security. So talking about thieves, you have different security systems now that have these rolling code features, which makes it hard for people to access your opener code. And then some have this special locking system where it can't be pried open. So there's like a bolt that goes into the rails on the side of your garage door, and it really locks it down tight, especially, again, for vacations. One thing I would look for is a good warranty, and the best openers have a lifetime warranty on the motor, the belt, or the chain.
Wow.
And then with the warranty, one thing that, we always had a problem with a lot of our customers was filling out the warranty card or registering online. And, almost all of these companies, they do such a nice job with customer service, replacing things. But the first question they ask is, did you fill out your warranty card or did you register? And so I would say with all these big purchases, just make sure you fill out your warranty information.
What are some tips when replacing a garage door opener?
So you're going to need a step ladder to get up and do the project, and I would have something at least 6 feet tall. Some of the pros recommend an 8-foot ladder, but you're going to take that long rail, and on most models you're going to have the motor on the end of it, so you attach one side above the garage door, and then you're going to need to lift up this motor and rail and set it on the top of, I'm usually using a 6-foot step ladder, and then you're going to pull it up and bolt it in place.
Is this something you could do by yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've changed a few myself. And then when you take the old motor off, or let's say before you change it, what you can do is pull the release on the door so that the trolley or the carriage is disconnected. You're going to lift.
Where's that?
That's what the trolley. Well, when it depends on whether the door's open or closed. So,
No, I mean like the release.
So it's going to be a cord that's hanging off the trolley with usually a red plastic ball on the end of it. So that's your
I never knew what that was.
Yeah, that's your emergency release. So let's say the electricity's out, you can pull that, and then you can lift the door without it being connected to either the chain or the belt.
Wow, I never knew that.
So the thing you want to check is your door balance. So you're checking the balance in the spring. So when you release that carriage, you're going to lift the door up halfway and let it go, and it should stay in place. If it doesn't, it's usually the torsion spring or springs that are right above, these coiled springs right above the door, and these springs are under tremendous pressure. So, this is one of the few things that I would leave to a pro. They are very dangerous. People have lost fingers and hands. People have been killed from these torsion springs. Wow. Not only from them breaking while you're messing with it, but if you're trying to tighten it with these metal rods, they can slip and you get impaled by these things. So the pros say that you should change these tension springs about once every 5 years. And they say that most of them, the average life is only 6 to 8 years.
Wow.
And this is another routine that most homeowners don't realize. It can be deadly. Like we talk about.
How do you know if they're going bad?
This is the test. So you're going to pull the emergency release on the trolley. You're going to lift the door halfway open, and it's been balanced by whoever originally set up your door. And if it's not staying open and it's slowly closing, or if it slams closed, that needs to be tightened, or it's at the end of its life and it's about ready to break. So this is another thing, like we talked about the pressure and temperature relief valve on a water heater, how you should mark on the side of it when you change it. That should be replaced once every 5 years. The same thing with these torsion springs. Most pros recommend once every 5 years, just change them. And they're not that expensive. Again, we're talking about something that's potentially very dangerous. If you have a door that has 2 torsion springs and one of them breaks, most of the pros that I was reading, they say that it's just time to replace both of them, rather than just replacing one and hoping the other one's going to last for another year or so. Just replace them both.
Is there any type of maintenance you should do on these springs?
So the old routine used to be use motor oil and wipe them down once a year. And now most manufacturers are just saying take any type of spray lubricant. I would say on this, because it's metal against metal and it's such great pressure that they're under, this is one of the areas I'd probably use a lithium grease, because it's going to stay in place right there by the garage door. It's going to stand up to extreme weather conditions. It's not going to evaporate. So that does a very nice job there. And then, when you're replacing your garage door opener, if you had the old metal iron that's just very flimsy, I would replace that thin stock with something heavy duty, because some of this slotted stock, it's so flimsy that you can just bend it with your hands, and then the whole motor kind of moves when the garage door goes up and down.
That's scary.
So you want a solid connection. It's going to reduce the amount of vibration, and it's going to give much more support to the motor and that rail. And then I would use locking washers or thread lock adhesive to prevent vibration from loosening the nuts. So what's interesting about that thread lock is this is a fluid invented in 1953 by American Sealant, who became Loctite, and now they're Henkel.
Well, duh.
But thread lock's interesting. So you put this liquid on your bolt, and then when you lock down your nut, it cures in the absence of air, and it fills that void between the threads, locking it in place. And if you're using a thread lock, make sure that you look at the strength, because they have high strength that actually needs like an impact tool to get it off, and then they have like a medium strength that you can use a standard tool on. But those do a really nice job. Just put a drop of that liquid on, you tighten it up, and you're not worried about vibration loosening your nuts. And then another thing you want to do when you're changing your garage doors, make sure that you change the old photo sensors and that wall button, because a lot of the new ones are updated. They're designed to work specifically with your style. Don't be lazy.
Right.
Change out those sensors that are on the floor 6 inches from the ground. This prevents, if somebody's standing in the garage, it stops it from closing. And then the new buttons are designed to go with your garage door opener.
What other maintenance should happen with your garage door opener?
So I'd say yearly, just lubricate any of the springs, pulleys with lithium grease oil or a multi-purpose oil. If you have a chain, I would lubricate that with a specific chain lube or a dry lube, something that goes on wet, so you spray it on wet and then it leaves a dry lubricant in place. And then I would use a dry lube on the rollers and any of the hinges, so all the moving parts. I would make sure once a year I keep those lubricated. And when we talked about in our lubrication episode, 2 of the top-rated companies are PB Blaster and Liquid Wrench, very highly rated lubricants.
Right.
What's wild is they used to recommend lithium grease for all this stuff,
right,
but then they found out that it collects dirt and debris, especially in the bearings in your rollers. It actually destroys the bearings.
So that'd be tough in a garage door opener.
Terrible. And then they used to. Then a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, they recommended putting a few drops of motor oil in your which is hard to do, hard to execute. And now most manufacturers are recommending a dry lube. To clean your dirty tracks, I would clean them out with WD-40.
Really?
WD has a really nice blend of cleaners and solvents in there, plus a lubricant. So it's really nice for cleaning metal. And then if you have a chain, you want to make sure that you're keeping it tightened 1/4 to 1/2 inch above the base of the rail. And then check your photo sensors that they're lined up and tight to the wall. You don't want those loosening up. Check the balance of the door once a year at least. You want to release the safety cord, pull it up halfway. It should stay in place. And then test the reversal system. So I would lay a 2x4 flat on the ground and then close your door on it. As soon as the door comes in contact with it, it should reverse directions and open up.
Really?
And then you want to check your rollers, your hinges while the door's moving, to make sure that none of those rollers are wobbling and out of balance.
What about weather stripping?
So on wood doors, it usually just is tacked on the bottom, so you can run down to the hardware store and get replacement weather strip. If you have the metal doors, it'll usually just slide into a track. And then it's not bad to keep your door cleaned, especially depending on the finish. So once a year, if you grab a cup of pH-neutral liquid soap, put it in 4 or 5 gallons of warm water, use a very soft brush or sponge on the end of a stick to clean it.
This is on the outside of the door?
On the outside, and then hose it clean. And then if you have wood, like we talked in the staining decks episode, I would keep it painted or stained, and again, check the label and see how many years they recommend. A little harder to do the splash test on the vertical door, but especially for wood doors, it's important to keep them from warping and absorbing too much water.
What are some top-rated companies?
So you have Chamberlain, Genie.
Well, wait. We haven't talked about Egypt, Pliny the Elder, and you haven't spelled anything in this episode?
Or I almost went into Thomas Edison with the DC motors because he loved direct current.
But our listeners are waiting for you to spell something, so.
Chamberlain, Chamberlain.
Thank you.
Genie, Genie. Deco, Decko. Summer, which is a German company, Sommer, and they have that direct drive garage door opener. And then Liftmaster, and they have that Jackshaft style.
Do you have anything else to add?
I would say it's just nice to have a routine to check your door. I would pull that emergency release and lift the door halfway just to check the main springs.
Did you know that you had to do that?
No, it's interesting. Yeah. And then have a lubrication routine. And those are the key things. I think I said everything else.
That's nice. Let's wrap this up.
You can pick up our home improvement book. It's called Home Improvement Solutions, What Every Homeowner Should Know, on Amazon. And
wow, you actually got the title right?
And thank you. And you can download that to any smart device.
Thank you for everybody that's downloaded it.
And if you've downloaded it and like it, please leave us a review on Amazon. I think
5 stars.
Yeah, I think it's just a really nice reference for your home improvement projects. You can say hi to Cindy on Twitter @FixItCohost. You can check out our enhanced podcast on Jabbercast at fixit.jabbercast.com. And you can also subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Stitcher.
If you enjoyed it, please leave us a review.
You can check out our home improvement videos on our YouTube channel, Fix It Home Improvement.
You can subscribe there as well.
And you can email us at fixitpodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening.
Talk to you next week.